All right, people, after possibly the longest, worst week of my life, we are back with the next episode of Lost, Season 3, Episode 8, Flashes Before Your Eyes. And Luke, this is where things are really getting good. This is where, so famously, when this stretch of episodes aired, Lost aired its first, I believe, the first 7 or 6 episodes in fall of 2006, and then they did like a big gap. I don't think that they returned for the rest of their season until March of 2007. So if they ended their airing of the episodes in November, that's an almost 4-month stretch between episodes. I don't remember if the episode they came back with was last week's episode, not in Portland, or this week's. But I feel like if it was last week's episode that ended it, and then this is the episode that they come back with in March of 2007, which I believe is also around the time when The Sopranos returned for its final season. Oh, man, what a freaking doozy of an episode. As if Lost kind of already wasn't like the go-to show, I feel like this is the episode that cemented it, because not only is this our next Desmond flashback, Desmond, who had quickly proven to be a little bit of a fan favorite character, despite having only been introduced in like a handful of episodes of season 2, playing a crucial role in terms of furthering the lore of the island. Now we get another unconventional backstory episode following Juliet's last week, but also probably one of the best and most unique instances and introductions and demonstrations of time travel that I've still seen to this day in almost anything. And I've seen them all pretty much.
Oh yeah, I love assessing various time travel methods. You got your standard Back to the Future, go back, change a few things, not really concerned with paradox. And at the other end, you have Tenet, which is like everything is planned out, which I think I've just rewatched some Tenet scenes, like that will go down as one of the most miswatched movies ever. But in terms of Lost, yeah, this is I think every like 7 to say 12 episodes, there's like something shifts in Lost. It's like, okay, this is like where we're headed now, and this is like a big one, which is like, okay, we're fully going into the sci-fi now. It's not just like, oh, there's an island, there's some people here. No, like the island is even more capable than we thought initially. So, and it's not just the standard. You think, okay, he's gonna go through his memories, he's gonna live through them, but then things keep changing, and it's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, it's once again another demonstration of what Lost does best, which is mixing its kind of signature storytelling device, but while still having it be motivated by character. Because despite no matter how many crazy, insane sci-fi twists they add to this show, there's always going to be it's always going to be motivated by the characters. And even though I gave the finale of season 2 nonstop flack for like, oh, get it? Like Desmond, he's always running. He's running away from his past, all that. And I just thought that was a little bit too heavy-handed and on the nose. And here, I still have a slight bit of qualms with it, but it makes slightly more sense once you realize that, like, oh, Desmond is not responsible for everything that's happened to him. Like, there are forces that are beyond his power that are basically operating and kind of forcing him to kind of stay on this path, which I think is a really interesting examination of time travel, because usually when you have a time travel situation, it's either a device that kind of forces a character to be stuck almost in this loop, or you have it where the character has some sort of supernatural powers, But in this instance, once again, with this kind of massive device / force that is the island, the episode literally starts with Desmond bringing Charlie and Hurley into the woods in order to meet with Locke and Saeed, in order to basically like ease the tension as far as, helping the rest of the survivors get past Echo's death. But it's I'm like, okay, so that does pay off. So Locke really was trying to go to the beach in order to tell everybody about Echo's death. But it's simply just a precursor for the beginning of the episode, when Desmond, in yet another one of his strange prophetic actions, ends up running towards the beach upon, unexpectedly out of nowhere, and rescues Claire, who almost drowned, apparently. And he tries to pass it off and like, oh, I heard her screaming. And Hurley's immediately figures out, he's like, dude, no, you didn't. Like, no, you didn't. And this is tying in because Hurley was the one who first figured out like Desmond's ability in the Locke episode a couple of weeks ago, Further Instructions, when Desmond both predicted Locke making a speech that would reunite, that would kind of, get the survivors back together and calm them down in the wake of Jack's absence, while also, putting up the lightning rod that also would spare Charlie and Claire's tent. So now this whole time you've been wondering, like, what are Desmond's actions? What have they been pertaining to? And weirdly enough, this is the second time where they both involve Claire. And then you realize by the end what it actually means, but we'll get to that in a bit. And basically, Hurley tells Charlie's like, okay, he's like, we're gonna find out what the hell he's got going on. And then Hurley's like, dude, that won't work. He's gonna just see it coming. And Charlie's like, well, that's why we gotta get him drunk. And that's where we pull out the first device of this episode, the McCutcheon Scotch bottle. So they get Desmond drunk. Charlie basically asks him, is like, how did you know what was gonna happen today? He basically calls him out, calls him a coward. Desmond attacks him. And then that leads us into the flashback as far as showing us what happened to Desmond when he turned the key.
It's a very, very different type of flashback to what we're used to. So even this far into the show, they keep surprising us with the flashback because, as we said, the flashbacks now are getting like a little more tiring. And we had the Juliet one last week, and that was good because it's a completely new character. But this was really interesting, and especially as he slowly begins to realize like what is happening and what he possibly can change or can't change. And much like in 11/22/63, the past harmonizes, it adjusts, it course corrects. So
yes,
I'm very excited to see how that evolves in this season, especially towards the very end of the episode. But we'll get to that.
It's pretty interesting because most of the time in time travel, you either have it where the timeline is set and nothing you could do will change it, or even your presence in the past, one little action that you do will cause a ripple effect that will change everything. The butterfly effect, if you will. You sneeze in the past and all of a sudden you come back to the future and like the Nazis are in charge, or fucking dinosaurs have survived, or we're in a post-apocalyptic future, something like that. And here, I like it where it's like the timeline is almost like the island in that sense. It's kind of this living, breathing organ, this living, breathing kind of organism, this apparatus, if you will. And I like how this episode is the beginning. Obviously, this will not be the last time that we visit this, but this episode once again ties into kind of how, what the Dharma Initiative was there originally for, what Desmond was originally there for, in order to study this very strange electromagnetic energy well. While it is not explicitly said what that is, it's very clear, like, oh, the island very clearly sits on this strange epicenter of space and time where it comes together. And that's kind of the epicenter of this electromagnetic energy that the Dharma Initiative was there studying and that Desmond was there to basically help contain. Because essentially, and again, this is getting into a lot of spoilers for the end of the show, but I feel like we're at that point now where we can start to have that discussion where essentially the island, I look at it as like a conduit almost. It's like an energy source. It's like an outlet almost, but like the outlet to like the universe, where if it's ripped open and if it's not like carefully maintained or looked after, it will eventually spill out and cause this horrible ripple effect that will just destroy everything. And while this is just a small piece of it, it is very interesting to see how Desmond is this one character that seems constantly tied to the island no matter what he does to try and change that. And this episode is a perfect example of that, where the whole time he thinks he's experiencing this massive flash of events before your eyes where, he wakes up in his apartment, paint all over him. He's with Penny. He's
at first I thought, oh my God, he's covered in blood.
Everybody did. Everybody did. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing with this episode.
Which is weird because I feel like I've never seen that in a movie before.
I've definitely
it feels like something I would have seen, but I can't recollect anything.
It's definitely something that I've seen before, but this was the time where it was done for comedic effect. I'm just looking up something because
it's a good gag.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I noticed something in this episode, and I wanted to make sure. Okay, so this was not written by Drew Goddard. I thought that. Okay, so this is okay. So this episode is famously written by Damon Lindelof and one Drew Goddard, who is a creative that I am a big fan of. For those of you guys who do not recognize that name, that is the showrunner for the first season of Netflix's Daredevil. He directed. He co-wrote The Cabin in the Woods with Joss Whedon. He directed Bad Times at the El Royale, which is a very, very good episode. This is a guy who is very, very good at kind of crafting these different. Oh no, actually, I'm wrong. He did direct Cabin in the Woods, which Joss Whedon co-wrote. This guy is excellent, and he also is going to be. What's it called? And he's also going to be writing the script as well for Project Hail Mary.
Oh, yeah. and he did a great job with The Martian. So
yes, The Martian,
I have full faith.
So this guy knows what he's doing when it comes to like different kinds of like sci-fi elements. And this show is where he got his start. And what I like here is how the time travel element is both posited as both kind of it's a series of regrets of Desmond for things that he wished he had done in his past life, while also showing that, like, oh, the timeline is fluid. It's not necessarily set. There's not much that you can do to change it, but it always kind of course corrects, if you will, where once Desmond realizes that he's not just living a dream, like he has physically, or at least mentally, his consciousness has been transported back to his previous time in his life, the time when everything started to go wrong. It's like he's like, oh, I can change it. I can fix everything. I can propose to Penny and not be a coward like I was before. I can impress her father and get that job, almost. But he just, he finds himself just reliving all the same things that he already went through, to the point where he even tries to consult a friend of his, fellow physicist, in order to try and prove that time travel is real. He tries to do all these things to prove that it's real. It's like, oh, we were sitting in this bar, this team beat this team. It was a complete miracle. Nobody saw it coming. Then this guy ended up coming into the bar, hit the bartender with a cricket bat. But it turns out none of that happens. So he's like, oh, what do I do? All of that. And so, yeah.
But as with Lost, is if they tell us something's going to happen, it will happen just later in the episode.
Just later on. Just not when we think it's going to happen. That's the thing. So, yeah. So it really is beautifully done, kind of how it's able to mix in this idea of time travel and fate, if you will. Because those are two things that, I feel like can often get crossed over together, but they don't always necessarily mean the same thing, in the sense of where, time ultimately is unforgiving. Time, regardless of how we perceive it, some people experience time slower than others, and ultimately time is a means of how human beings experience changes over long periods. That's ultimately how they explain it. But it always kind of moves forward. There's no going back. Versus fate is this idea of predestination, something that you are meant to do. This path, this series of steps, life choices that you have to go through. And it's very interesting how they kind of cross-examine and mix those two together, especially with a character like Desmond, who is somebody who consistently feels trapped by his fate, somebody who feels that he is experiencing a series of things that have no choice. He feels like he had no choice but to come to the island. He feels like he was forced to leave Penny, ultimately, because that's the other thing that really ties in, is the fact of his own sense of self-worth, and the fact that because he's constantly told by these other people that he will never be worthy of daughter. Well, really one person, that being her douchebag of a father, Charles Widmore. But this is the second time that we've seen that guy so far. And this will not be the last time that we see him or the other character that's introduced in this episode, which I'll get to in a bit. But it's this idea that he feels that he will never measure up to and be worthy of Penny. And that is why, and that is why he ultimately makes the decision to leave her and break up with her. And that is a mistake that has constantly been haunting him up until this day. And it's a mistake that he's constantly wishing that he could undo. But at least up until this point, he can't. And that's also kind of what ties in with what he tells Charlie at the end. But real quick, so we get Eloise Hawking in this episode, who, again, a character that we don't see for a little bit after that, but is going to be another crucial character in terms of the island lore, if you will. So what did you think of that whole sequence?
Was that the physicist friend?
No, the old woman in the ring shop.
Oh, right. Yeah, she was kind of like when Boone showed up in Locke's airport in his island. I kind of got that vibe. It's like, this is the island personified. And you say we're gonna see her again?
Yep.
Yeah. She's kind of that mentor figure that all these heroes in these stories need to talk to, get some advice, or just set them on the right path. And again, she says that I could have warned the guy there, and he dies the next day. It's that thing of the past course corrects, and I love this aspect of time travel when time itself is a character.
Yes.
It's this all imposing force. Like you can try to beat it, but it will eventually overpower you. And if you do try to beat it, you will pay for it dearly. So
yes.
and that leads into the very last conversation.
Yes.
That Desmond has.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because Hawking is an interesting character presence in this episode, because even though, yes, she seems to be speaking the truth in terms of, oh, I could have warned him today, I could have warned him tomorrow. And obviously that's going to be reaffirming everything that Desmond's doing back on the island, in the sense of, it's like, if I had stopped him from getting hit by that scaffolding, he would have been hit by taxi tomorrow. If I had been stopped him from getting hit by taxi tomorrow, it would have been something else the next day. Like, the whole thing of, it's like, I can try and change it in the moment, but that's not necessarily going to do anything to change his fate ultimately. And But what's interesting about with Desmond is that that's both true and not true, because yes, that's ultimately what leads him to, you know, have the conversation with Penny and reject her and ultimately decide to not go through, which is obviously going to lead him to do what he does, whilst in the past, ultimately get locked up in prison, get out, enter into Bernard's race in order to try and impress Penny, then be trapped on the island for 3 years, which leads him to where he is now. But what's even more interesting is the fact that he goes back to the bar and after seeing also there was a moment earlier in the episode too. I just remembered where he saw Charlie playing outside and he recognized him, but that was part of the setup. He goes back to the bar where he was and he realizes that everything is happening exactly as he thought it was. It just he got the day wrong. So that's the other thing that this episode does brilliantly well too, is it's not necessarily that things can't change. It's just that it has to account for human error as well. And that's another thing that this episode does brilliantly, is the fact that it's like, yeah, human error is just as much a thing. And by the time he realizes, oh, I can change, boom, knocked out by the guy who came in to hit the bar back on the island. So it almost felt like Hawking was a character that was like almost like forcing him to go back onto that direction, whereas he could have possibly changed things. Now, whether she was doing that because, if he hadn't gone to the island and released that energy, it would have exploded and killed everybody, or if she was just doing that to fuck with him, who knows? But she's also, again, another character who seems to be weirdly prophetic and can see the future. But as far as where that brings us towards with the end of the episode, where he finally kind of has the confession, you saw that all of this whole extended flashback was what he experienced before he woke up in the hatch after he turned the key, which is what obviously led him to, running naked through the jungle when Hurley found him. But that brings us back to the beach at the end, when he finally confesses that everything that he's been doing with the prophet of setting up the lightning rod, saving Claire from drowning, there'll be a couple more things that he does throughout the season, has been to save Charlie, because he's like, look, I keep seeing that you're going to die, Charlie, for whatever reason. That's the thing that I'm seeing. And I set up that lightning rod because otherwise you would have been hit by lightning, not Claire. I dove in to save Claire because otherwise you would have dove in and you would have drowned. He's like, but it doesn't matter what I do. I can keep trying to change fate, but it's not going to change the fact that you're going to die. Boom, cut to credits. And that's kind of what sets us up for the end game, because like I said, I don't know how deep you've dove into any of the Lost lore, but Through the Looking Glass, the season 3 finale, is one of the more tragic 2-part Lost finales for a reason, and now we know why.
Yeah, it introduces another ticking clock for the season, because we got so many like little plot lines going. We got Jack is still on Hydra Island now.
Yep.
Now Kate and Sawyer are making their way back to the main island. Locke and Sawyer were going after the smoke monster or something. Now Desmond is gonna keep trying to save Charlie, whatever. Now, how does Charlie feel about it? Like what was going through his mind? He's like, now, oh yeah, something is trying to kill you actively. So
right.
And there's the whole conflict with the others at the same time.
There's a lot that's going on this season. Like I said, there were, and again, it's funny how I know I was critical of season 3, but I'm realizing now, I'm like, oh, that might have just been because I was having a hard time getting through the first couple episodes. But now you understand why it took so long to set everything up, because goddamn, there was a lot that has been said. I think that every single episode of those first 6 or 7 was setting something up, and now they're in the process of like paying it off. And I'm like, geez, this is what we're going to be doing for the rest of this season. And I'm like, okay, now I understand why season 3 is everybody's favorite.
You're allowed to take your time if you're gonna keep delivering just banger after banger, and of course a classic Lost episode ending where some big revelation at bang title card.
Well, what's going to be even more interesting is once we wrap this season and we get into season 4 next year, and we go from like this, again, very elongated, stretched out, very well-paced season with a lot of stuff happening, to the shortest season of the show. Now, granted, that's because of the writer's strike season, but season 4 is only 14 episodes, and we're only going to be covering it for 12 weeks but that's another 3-part finale. So that's going to be really interesting to see how they manage time. And season 4 is a season that I'm a big fan of. Like, I really, really enjoy season 4. I think a lot more than most people do. But the way that season 4 plays out, it's like, wow, that really is kind of just like a continuation / wrap-up for extended wrap-up for season 3 in terms of what they were kind of forced to do because of the writer's strike that happened. So that's what was really interesting there. So before we get out of here, before we wrap up, I just have to talk about probably the biggest flop of the year, where after 2 straight weeks of watching some of the best movies possible at Toronto International Film Festival, and 2 back-to-back bangers when I got back with The Long Walk and Twinless. We have a movie that I was really excited for, that a lot of people were really excited for, that a lot of people were hoping was going to be like a potential smash, and it was not. It was not at all. And that would be Justin Tipping and Jordan Peele's Him, starring Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans, which was posited as a commentary on, you know, people, specifically Americans' treatment of modern day athletes, specifically black athletes, as like these modern day gladiators, in which a young up and coming football star played by Tyreek Withers, who, for those who don't know, he portrayed the kind of mixed race kid in that one episode of Atlanta season 3, Rich Wigga, Poor Wigga is the name of it. And so he's basically attacked and suffers a potential career-ending injury right as he's about to go pro, but is given a second chance to go and train for a week with an aging former NFL star played by Marlon Wayans, and shenanigans ensue. It was pitched as kind of like the Get Out, but for athletes, and this movie was dumb. This movie was unsubtle beyond belief. All of Marlon Wayans, this movie was pitched as like a career best performance for Marlon Wayans. And while he is incredible, I was never once like kind of not sold on him being a great actor. The disappointment comes from the fact that, all of his best moments are in the trailer, and the rest of it is mostly just him screaming in this kid's face and doing fuck shit. There's a lot of weird, random, crazy horror imagery that kind of goes nowhere. And the big twist end all reveal at the end is that, the NFL is run by Satanists. And if you want to be like the greatest, no, it gets better. If you want to be the greatest, the GOAT, get it? You have to literally sign a contract with the devil. And the whole thing is that, if you want to become like the greatest of all time, you have to basically inject the former goat's blood and kill the former in order to literally take his place. They get into this whole thing about like ritualistic sacrifice. It's dumb. This movie is fucking stupid. There are some enjoyable, entertaining moments, but for the most part, this has got to be like the biggest letdown of the year. It was one of those things where I'm like, I don't even think I could enjoy it like for being so bad, because by the time it got to the twist, it's like, so like you're not even gonna try and like make this a reveal because it's just so stupid. Because you made it just so stupidly obvious the whole time. Like, man, Jordan Peele's got this whole year has really fucked Jordan Peele up. First with Losing Weapons, then this. Now the fact that his movie that kept getting delayed for like 2 straight years, that was supposed to come out next year, is now not happening. So, man, I don't know what he does next, but man, it has not been a good year for Jordan Peele, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm not in the loop on why his film was taken off the slate. I don't know. Maybe he's just not finished writing.
He just couldn't figure it out. He just couldn't figure out what he wanted. They didn't even have a working. It was the Batman 2, but that one is just that they were just taking a long time with the script. This one is like, no, he couldn't figure out what he wanted to. He couldn't figure out what he wanted to do. He couldn't figure out how to make the movie that he wanted. His team lost the weapons script. He fired his management team, and he was trying to get the script. He just couldn't get it done.
Well, whenever he does put out the next one, I will absolutely be there day one, because he's one of the most exciting directors working today. I think you'll find few people who disagree there, but yeah, this one not a great one. I thought the concept was interesting. Like,
the concept, that's the thing. It's a really great concept, and in terms of commentary, like that part, it really had to go, and it just dropped the ball.
Yeah, literally,
yeah. Yeah, man, I'm with you as far as Jordan Peele goes. My thing is, though, I think he needs to back off on the commentary. Like, don't get me wrong, like his visual style is still unlike any other filmmaker there is, but I think he needs to back off the commentary, especially with Nope too. Nope was one where it's like he got so deep on the commentary, and like that almost got a little bit too obscure, and I feel like any messaging he was trying to get across kind of got lost in the shuffle. And the only thing that Nope really had going for it was some of the most absolutely insane, gnarly visuals that I've ever seen in a movie ever. But I think he needs to. I kind of want to see him like do something different. Like, I want to see him like change up, do genre, maybe go back, do some comedy almost. Like, that's the thing that I kind of want him to do ultimately, because I think getting mired in these commentaries, because the problem is when he first broke out, there was nobody else like him. And it was such a surprise seeing, the dude from Key and Peele, doing this kind of horror. But now there's a lot of other people who are doing the stuff that he's doing. And there's a lot of other people that are kind of doing the stuff that he's doing, but better. So, and especially now after Coogler put out the biggest movie of the year so far, that was almost entirely a genre piece with, the commentary was there, but it was more so just a fun genre romp. I kind of want Jordan Peele to like go and explore and do some other stuff, because if there's one thing that films from this year have told me, it's that genre roms are the way to go, because those have been all the best movies of the year, and those have been all my favorite movies of the year. You know, the weapons, the caught stealings, obviously K-pop is a thing in and of its own right, but K-pop demon hunters, even things like Superman and Fantastic Four, you know, obviously, yeah, those are playing off of, you know, very popular superhero things, but those are very much have like kind of embraced the superhero genre and have like truly become like live action comic books in a way that even the last 10 years of superhero movies weren't. So that, I think, is kind of the future of what these filmmakers need to be doing. You know, even Greta Gerwig is finally, you know, diving back into big IP with Narnia, you know, when that comes out next year. So, you know, and look at Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers is somebody who has made that perfect, because Robert Eggers is somebody who is not about commentary. He's about, no, I'm about period accurate genre. And that's why all of his movies have been great so far. So that's what I think needs to happen. That's what I think Jordan Peele needs to do in order to figure out his next movie. And
yeah, horror is just like one of those reliable genres where, you know, every year you're gonna get like 2-3 like really big surprises, like as this year. My top 3 movies are Weapons, Sinners, and The Long Walk. Like come on.
There you go. Not to mention the fact that we're also getting 2 sequels to probably 2 of the most successful horror movies that we've had so far this decade, with the Black Phone and Five Nights at Freddy's sequels coming out later this year. Although why those movies are coming out in November and December is still a mystery to me. But yeah.
The Five Nights at I watched the Five Nights at Freddy's. It's such a big thing. Like,
what a waste of time that movie was for me. I was
it's okay. I watched it I watched it on half my laptop screen while I was doing something else.
Yeah, I watched it on a bus, and I couldn't even. I almost couldn't finish it. I'm like, this is what people are going nuts over. These people are fucking idiots. Like, I'm sorry.
Fights breaking out after the movie.
I almost got into multiple fights with people over that movie just because I'm like, yeah, this sucks. I'm sorry. I don't know what you guys see in this. They're like, you take that back. It's Freddy Fazbear. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck about
it's
Freddy
just one
Fazbear.
Of those fandoms that are.
It really is. It really. And that's exactly the reason why I didn't go see Minecraft, because I'm like, there is going to be. I'm like, I have nothing to gain from watching this movie, because everybody who has already made up their minds about this movie has already made up their minds and is going to see it. So nothing that I say or do will add to it. And it was Warner Brothers' first big success. And by the way, you got to give props to Warner Brothers as far as the year that they've had. Good God.
Now they got One Battle coming out.
Yeah, Minecraft, Sinners, F1, Superman. What did they just have open recently that was a giant success?
Conjuring.
Yeah, well, Conjuring I don't think was like a giant success.
No,
but
it was. It was like the highest grossing horror opening ever.
Weapons, duh. And now they're gonna have and now One Battle After Another, if that gets, you know, the massive critical acclaim that's getting, oh man, the town could be wrong on that one, predicting that one was gonna be a bomb. But anyway, so that was our Lost recap for the day. Flashes Before Your Eyes, an incredible episode. Tune in next week for probably the most controversial episode of Lost yet. Stranger in a Strange Land, where we discover the origin of Jack's tattoos. Yeah, they were really stretching it at that point. But yeah, so tune in next week for that, and then Dustin and I will be going live after for our review of One Battle After Another. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Luke, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
They can follow me at Luke Reviews on YouTube. Spooky season around the corner, so I'm about to, maybe not today, but I'm gonna rewatch The Thing soon, and then I will make a video about it, how The Thing is really cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
And maybe I'll do a Stranger Things video, because I'm rewatching season 4. I'm like, who let them make this?
Oh, really? So you're in the not season 4 camp.
No, I'm more amazed that they were allowed to do
this. Okay, got it. Yeah, because I'm like, I thought season 4 was a vast improvement over season 3. Despite the fact that
no. I think season 3 is definitely the worst one. I think it's
without a doubt.
I think it's 1, 4, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
because
that's
my thing with 2 and 3. It didn't really move it towards anything. It was just
2 and 3 were really just like kind of repeating a lot of the same thing. Yeah. 2, I think where 2 worked in the sense that 3 didn't is 2 was like actually wanted to like dive and like show that like, yeah, this was a traumatic event that these characters suffered, and like kind of the getting past it, and then the upside down comes back. So that's why I put 2 above 3. 3 was just like, oh, we just don't care. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
My thing with 4 is like the main Hawkins plot is so good. It's basically like, okay, we're doing it like properly this time. Yes. And there's the California plot with 11.
And then there's the Russia plot.
And there's the Russia plot. Like,
it's like, what are we doing? But it's like, everybody's back together now. Well, because you know why they did that? Because that was the Infinity War to now season 5's Endgame.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna get another 2.5 hour long finale. So
2 hours. I don't know. I think we give me a little bit more.
Real quick. Do you remember that back in the summer of 2022 when they dropped those last 2 episodes of Stranger Things? They came out the same weekend as Thor: Love and Thunder, and the finale of Stranger Things was longer than Thor: Love and Thunder. Just the finale. Like, do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I was out on the countryside. I was just like, okay, this is out. I'm gonna go in my room for 3.5 hours, watch the finales because they released the last 2
The
episodes. It was
last
like
2 episodes. And I'm
like
like,
an
why are
hour
they doing
and
the
two and a
first
half.
7 and then the last
Yeah.
2? And I'm like, oh, that's why, because that shit was 4 hours of content. Like, that
Yeah,
was
and I'm
like,
like,
that was insane. That was
just went
absolutely
in
insane.
and out and then bang.
What a
Now we are 3 years later.
what a time 2022 was. That year was so baffling. Like just looking back, everything that happened that year. Our first kind of sort of real year out of COVID. Like Elvis was that summer, Top Gun Maverick was that summer, the
Yeah.
summer of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Bullet Train was that summer. Man, what a Multiverse of Madness was that summer. Man, how has it already been 3 years since that summer? Oh man, what a time to be alive. You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. Be sure to go and check out all of my TIFF reviews, reactions. I'm still putting them out on Instagram. For those of you who did not catch them on TikTok, be sure to leave a like and a subscribe on this video. Be sure to go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere where you can find Talkin TV podcast. We've still got our Lost recap going all the way until the end of the year, and I still have more content planned coming out for the rest of the year. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. And as always, people, 12 seasons in a short film, and get lost. We'll see you guys next time.